prep for an amazing application. I'm going to briefly introduce our speakers. So one of our speakers is Elina Hashmi, who holds a Master's in Science in Water Science Policy and Management from the University of Oxford, where she was a Newman Scholar from 2023 to 2024. And currently she's working at British Waters. And our second speaker is Shafqat Hussain, who is the recipient of the very prestigious Directorate Award for the Masters in Project Management at SAID's Business School at Oxford University. We're so very grateful that both of you agreed for the session. I'm excited to come over. Thank you so much. We can formally start the session now.
Hi, thank you for having us. Can you hear me all right? Because my internet has been acting up all day and I couldn't hear you properly while you were um, welcoming everyone.
I can hear you perfectly, Lima.
All right, okay, great then. How do you want to take this? Are you gonna ask a few questions here? Like, I'm not sure how the format works, but yeah, excited to start.
I think, Arena, if you could walk them through your journey of joining Oxford, that would be, I think, very helpful for them.
Okay, yeah, sure. I can start with that. I thought it would be more of a question answer thing. But all right, yeah, so I did my master's in water science policy and management, which is a program offered by the Oxford School of Geography and Environment. So processes vary depending on the departments you're applying to. So I can talk a little bit about my experience. I knew about the program well in advance, but I started my whole process fairly late. So I did it a bit last minute. I wouldn't recommend you do the same. Um, my like when it comes to the basic requirements, you can find them on the website, but it's fairly simple. Like their minimum GPA requirement is 3.6, but it's a very competitive application process. So it's better if you have significantly more than that, and if you have like a very good academic record. The good thing is you don't need a GRE or a GMAT or any of those tests to apply to Oxford, but you do need an English language test qualification, so either TOEFL or IELTS, and a higher band at that. But all of these details are on the website. So what I in terms of like the write-ups that I had to prepare, I wrote my personal statement. The word limit is not that great. It's 1,000 words, and they don't really want you to talk too much about, well, the personal statement is about you, but at the same time, I think the difference between Oxford and the personal statement of all other universities that I applied to was that they wanted more of an understanding of my views on the degree and my understanding of core themes, and just using all of my experiences to describe how they further develop my interest in water or water policy, or like how they sparked my curiosity. So I try to like link this is something that they've mentioned on their website as well, that they don't just want you to talk about your experiences, but how that is linked to your curiosity and interest and understanding of the subject. So you keep have to referring to academic concepts throughout the personal statement as well. I can delve into this in more detail if someone has more questions on this. In terms of other write-ups, I also prepared an academic writing sample, which is basically um, uh, any sort of like research paper. Um, but not a complete research paper. You just have to write 2,000 words. So it can be like they just want you to see how your research writing skills are. You can pick a topic of your choice, do a literature review, write 2,000 words on that. So yeah, it's just about following like the correct technical format to prepare research related documents. And then lastly, they also required 3 references, of which 2 should be academic. So what I did was, because I had some internship experience, I was pretty much a fresh graduate when I applied to this master's. So I reached out to one of my internship supervisors to give me a professional reference letter, and then uh, two academic reference letters from my professors. And then, well, again, interviews depend on which department you're applying to. For my department, they don't generally hold interviews. Sometimes they do, but I did not have an interview. So Shafkan can probably talk better about that, because I think the side business school does do interviews. Yeah, so that is it in terms of well, the basics that I needed. I think maybe Shafkat, you could cover like the basics that you needed, and then we can talk about like developing the personal statements and things.
Sure. Uh, so just to clarify, uh, my program is much different to Elena's program, and it's generally more related to more experienced students. So I'll talk about business. Business school is very, very different from other Oxford departments. So everything around admissions is different, but I'll sort of brief about why business school. By profession and or by training, my undergrad is in civil engineering. I think, Elena, you are also a civil engineer, right?
Yeah, yeah. Same.
Oh, okay. So both of us are civil engineers, but slightly diverse uh, experiences, and then move on to different degrees to pursue. So I did my undergrad in 2014. I passed out in 2014 from UET Lahore in Pakistan. Then I had like 6 years of experience before applying to LUMS to do my executive MBA. And post that executive MBA, I went on to apply for Oxford and MMPM, which is MSc in Major Program Management. This is a program people pursue who are looking forward to leading projects or programs over a minimum $1 billion in value, a single program with $1 billion in value. So that's the program I went on to. So in both of my business school experiences, but both at LUMS and at Saeed, what I found out is what the business school is looking for are two things. And this is actually, I did talk to my professor who designed MBA and executive MBA program at Sulaiman Dawood Business School in LUMS back in '87, and he's been with the school and with all those changes going around. He actually talked about what they were looking for, and then I actually found out that Saeed was looking for very similar things. So business schools look that whether they can add a significant value in professional life of the students who pursue degrees, whatever degree they are pursuing. So one thing, what can they give to the student, and on the other side, can the student bring a similar level of experience and exposure to a class and add to other students by formal and informal learning? I think the second thing is pretty universal. All programs look for students and cohorts where they look whether the student can participate in class, both in and they judge that based on their experience, based on their speaking ability, based on their written and spoken communication. So these are some of the things where how they look at students. So instead of doing something more specific, I am basically talking more general terms, which would be applicable to a lot more programs and a lot more universities. So, in business schools, almost all programs require you to have some significant professional experience. So MBA at LUMS or MBA at Said both requires a minimum 2 years of a good quality professional experience for students to take those students in. But typically, in LUMS MBA, the average student or average experience of each student is about 3 years, and for Saeed, it's about 6 years. Then and professional references are extremely important, like Lina mentioned. Because professional references are the certifications people are providing on your behalf that you know your stuff and you can participate in those programs very well. On the other side, the next thing business schools look for is GMAT or GRE scores. Those are looked at even more than your academic records. So I'll talk about my academic record and my GRE score. Uh, just to give you an idea that if you don't have a 3.6 GPA, that's not an issue. You could still get in. So, and obviously personal qualities and extracurricular activities. So this is my profile, a brief version of it at least. Uh, I had a very decent quality of experience in Pakistan. I worked on extremely good projects, and not only that, my
Oops, cut you off, but I can't see your profile on the screen. There are some
sorry.
comments as well.
Uh, okay.
Yes.
This is. Can you see now?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, okay. So I had a very decent quality experience in terms of my professional experience. I worked for a specialized healthcare department in Punjab. I was leading 45 hospitals, a tertiary care hospital, which is like, in terms of budget of at that time for provincial government was 26 billion PKR. So when you are presenting those numbers, do if you are presenting at some time, present those in dollar terms so other people can understand better. So that's what I did. And then my role was majority of the time was integration of other people on those projects. Not I wasn't an engineer, but I was more of a social scientist kind of an engineer. And then my GRE score is a decent number, 316 out of 340, but my GPA, as you can all see, you probably won't have as low GPA as I had in my undergrad. And still, based on this GPA, I got into LUNS, I got into a decent numbers of international graduate schools at the time I applied there. But I did not get into a lot of those schools immediately after my graduation. I did not get into uh, any business, or not only business school, any decent university in Pakistan right after my graduation. But I didn't apply for like first 4 years. On my fifth year and my sixth year, I applied to some schools and I got into LAMS, I got into master and different schools in the same year when I did my MBA. So uh, if you have lower GPA, you obviously need some experience to go and apply to decent schools. Alina the minimum requirement is very high because competition at that point is extremely high, and only thing you could show for is your academic ability and in some cases GRE GMAT score in business school, and in other cases, for example, at Elena's program, there is no GRE GMAT requirement, so you can show a different set there. So the two things you can do is you can write extremely good personal statements, and uh, for business school requires you to also write 2 to 3 essays, 2,000 to 3,000 words each, and then maybe a couple of 1,000 words or 500 words statements for your scholarships and all of that stuff. But what you could do is write good written communication, show that you can do it, because quality of graduate students, not business school, but other than business school students, is cohort is extremely diverse and very qualified. So I think, Lena, point me if I'm wrong, there are roughly about 80% or more students who are international and not UK based. So
Yeah, true. Yeah, my program, we only had 3 people who were UK based, and, and 2 of them were people of color. So I would say maybe, yeah, they were also immigrants. So yeah.
And what is extremely good for a lot of participants here, that Oxford is extremely focused on hiring a diverse background of students, both in terms of experience and in terms of lived experience. So they are not focused on UK based or European based students. They are looking at all around the world, and they try to bring in as many nationalities as possible. The uh, and the ratio of female to male students is I think one of the best in any schools in US or UK compared to. Uh, so Oxford Business School, so Said Business School has about 50-50 ratio in MBA, 50% male, 50% female. This last year they had 51% females. This year they had 48% female students. And on all other program, it's about 60-40, 60% males and 40% females. And looking at business world, this is like because they are hiring from diverse backgrounds. So this is an extremely good ratio at this point in generally. Uh, just go through my next step. I'll just give a very short brief on programs. You could go online and see them. There are three programs which you can do immediately, not immediately, but with a very small experience post your undergrad. So MBA is a 1 year program. Typically 3,000 to 4,000 people apply, and then the class size is decently large, about 350 people, 50-50 male to female ratio. Median GMAT is 680, minimum experience requirement, all that stuff. But do see there are a lot of scholarships available. Not all of them are full scholarships, but there are a lot of partial scholarships available. And if you apply as early as possible, like in maybe January, February cycle, and once you get your decision, you could also apply for HEC funding or other funding. Elena, you have other than Oxford funding, right?
No, my scholarship is Oxford funded.
Oh, okay, it's an Oxford scholarship. But if you apply early, you can also get partial scholarships from Oxford and then get partial scholarships from HEC and other areas. Then MSc, Financial Economics, Law, and Finance. All three of them are 1 year degrees. And this is,
I think
I'm
I
not
just
sure.
one more. Sorry again to cut you off because I will forget this if I don't say it now. For HEC scholarships, when I applied, there was this national top talent something scholarship going on then, and it ended up being a massive failure. Like they ended up funding nobody at all. It was quite controversial what they did, and it hasn't come out in the media as such. So what I would advise is don't completely rely on funding that has sources in Pakistan. Like to try to apply for various sources of international funding, even if it's not Oxford funded or university funded. There are other organizations, NGOs. Even the British government has a whole range of scholarships, especially for women. So please check those out. Do not trust HEC fully. That's what I'm going to say.
Oh, and then sorry, I missed out on one scholarship while we're talking. Oxford Pakistan scholarships. There is a program OPP. Uh, they do typically 15 postgraduate scholarships each year. Most of those scholarships are for people of uh, different background or not, basically not for key major cities, but some of them are for you could apply from even if you are from Lahore or Islamabad. So there are some partial scholarships there which are for Balochistan, Southern Punjab, and maybe same than KBK, but there is a diverse range of it. So typically 15 people are being funded each year via OPP. So you could look at that as well. And they accept their applications till I think early April. So if you get your decision before March or in March or first week of April, you could also go ahead and apply for Oxford Pakistan program. And then the next three programs may not be for people who are immediately coming from undergrad studies. They are for people who have about 8 or 10 years of experience. When I was doing my undergrad and I was looking at master's programs, at that time I did look at executive MBA at LUMS. So it's like 6 years, and they had that at that time they had 4 years professional experience requirement. And when I ended up doing it 6 years later, because I had in my mind at some point that I'll probably be doing it. So maybe this slide is just a reference, even if you are not doing it now, maybe a few years down the line, these are one of or two of these are good programs for you. And then uh, some diploma programs which does not have to have about 10 years of experience, maybe 5 years of experience, and these are free to apply. And then they also have half of 50% fee waivers for 4 to 6 participants each year. So these are partially on basically these are part-time programs, both of these diploma programs as well as these executive programs. So you have to be on site at for 1 week every 2 to 3 months. So number of in-person modules, executive MBA has 16 modules, so you have to go to say that 16 times in 2 years. MSc major program, 8 modules, so 8 in-person visits. Global healthcare, 8 modules, so 8 in-person visits. And diploma programs have 4 in-person visits in 1 year. So that's about it. My recommendation around reaching out to MBA or business school people is do schedule one-to-one meetings. So Oxford and Cambridge both have, I'm sure other colleges or other business schools would have something similar. So there are people which are part of recruitment team, and you can send an email. Those emails are mentioned on the Said Business School pages for each program. I'm sure similar things are being done at other business schools. So you can actually schedule one-to-one online meeting with them. They are very happy to do a 30-minute or 15-minute meeting with you. You can ask them to review your CV or you review your personal profile, and they can also give pointers based on their discussion with other people. So you can do that, but do apply as early as possible because the opportunity to get funding is higher when you apply early. Try to apply as early as possible, maybe January, February next year. Or if the cycle, so business schools run on very different cycles. So if there are other cycles running around, do apply on as early as possible. Do attend online introductory events and ask as many questions in those events. Even if there is a repetition of an event, once you pop in and have already applied for, try to attend more events. So they are like, this guy is really interested or this guy is really interested in doing it. Maybe we have to look at their resume and their profile and their application maybe again, if even if and be polite, very, very polite to recruiters and display extremely good oral and written communication. That's very important because these people who are recruiters are actually part of the committees which do select students on business school programs. And you want to have them, and they are the only person you can interact with actually, other than your interviews. So you do get opportunity to get interviewed, but that's when your application has been reviewed and you're 90% there. Interview is just there to verify whether whatever you are saying in your application is true. Can you display good communication or not? So something similar. That's about it from my side. I think both of us are open to questions. Please.
Yeah, I was just going to add a few more things because again, the format of this was a bit of a surprise to me. I thought it would be more of like an interview style or conversation style thing. So great slides though, thank you. I unfortunately do not have slides, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have and also connect with you on LinkedIn. So I've sent over my profile link in the chat box. Just in terms of some other general tips. First of all, when you're applying you need to understand the difference between applying to UK universities versus applying to Oxford and Cambridge, because Oxford and Cambridge also have the college system, which is very hard to understand when you first come across it. And the importance of it varies between undergraduate and postgraduate level. So if you're applying to Oxford at undergraduate level, the college prestige, all of that really matters because you're applying to a college directly. But when you're applying to Oxford or Cambridge at postgraduate level, then you you apply to your academic department, and then you're assigned a college, and the quality of your accommodation, the access you have to social spaces, dining halls, libraries, that sort of depends on which college you're assigned to. So none of us have a say in that, but it is worth, like, I'm highlighting this because no other university in the world has this little quirk, so it would be worth looking into and reading more about it if you guys are interested. And then also, but I can only speak from a fresh graduate's perspective to applying for masters. So again, I would say it's very important to have a very high GPA. Most people in the School of Geography and Environment were actually fresh grads. So it was very academically competitive. But like, don't let that put you off. Along with the academics, they also sort of look at super curriculars. Now, the difference between extracurriculars and super curriculars is that super curricular activities complement the course that you're doing. So, for example, while volleyball might be an extracurricular sports activity for you, if you're an engineer and you're participating in tech related or coding competitions or something like that, which is relevant directly to your course and your field of study, then that is a super curricular activity, and that's something that really stands out on your profile. And it goes on to show that your learning extends beyond the classroom. So yeah, so it's very important to amass as many super curricular activities as you can during your undergrad or during the time you have after you graduate and before you apply for your master's. I see there's a comment on the chat box about industrial experience. Yes, so for Shivning scholarships, like, they do require a minimum of 2 years of work experience. So that is a requirement for that scholarship. But there are tons of other scholarships which don't have that requirement. And the university itself does not have any such requirement. Again, like Shafqat said, you are the best judge of your profile. So if you see that, like, if you have, if you think that there's a weakness, for example, when it comes to like academic, your academic profile, and you think that well, 3.5 may not necessarily be the best GPA to put in front of Oxford when you have just like a fresh degree in your hand and you don't have anything else in your hand yet, then yeah, that maybe it will be a good decision to get some work experience first, so that you can also write in depth about that in your personal statement and see and display to them how working in your industry has made you more passionate about your field and how you think that you can take things forward based on your work experience. So like that sort of covers for other weaknesses that may have been present before in your like academic profile. So I guess it really varies case to case. Some people come in with a few years of work experience, some come in straight out of university. Yeah, but only with Shivning, I think they have like the full requirement of doing 2 years of work experience. Like my scholarship did not have any such requirement, and any scholarship, even the Oxford Pakistan program or any scholarship that is partially Oxford funded, I don't think has any work experience requirements. Business school programs are obviously different because they do hinge on people having some experience dealing in the with things in the workplace. So I can't speak for that. And then I see there's also another question. Some values at Oxford that we can reflect from our application. Again, I would say this really depends on your department and what's important to them. So a good thing would be to do some research on what sort of like research centers and labs, if applicable, are available at your department, what sort of things professors are working on, and then trying to appeal to those sort of sentiments. Or you can actually take another route entirely and just talk about like what you're interested in doing. So there's no hard and fast rule for that. As long as you're able to justify everything you've written with like real life experiences. And again, I really want to emphasize on real life experiences because I know that a lot of us use AI to make our writing better. But then a side effect of using AI is that it also makes our writing more generic and takes out the personality from it. And I think especially in programs where they don't interview you, the only thing that reflects your personality to the assessor are your words. So I think it's very important that you try to write things as originally as possible. There's nothing wrong with using AI to correct grammatical mistakes and this enhance flow and things like that, but don't depend on AI or even like somebody else to write the majority of your essay. A good tip is to always try to, like, if you're writing a personal statement, even if the word limit is very tight, it's always good to begin with a personal story, even a single sentence that somehow describes your connection to the topic. So for example, because I studied water, and I'm from Karachi, and we all know how badly Karachi floods during the monsoon season, I started my essay with a line about that. So it's always good to like include as much of like your personality and your personal connection to the issues that you want to study and work on. Like try to incorporate that in like as many parts of your essay as you can, but don't go overboard. Like don't let it take over. It's just about finding the right balance, and you can do that once you work on several drafts of your essay. You're not going to get like the first draft right. And it's again always good to consult someone once you've refined a draft, because a fresh pair of eyes always helps. Um, yeah, I hope that sort of answers the question, Barak. Otherwise, like in terms of, I do want to add, like in terms of values, especially I think the past 2 years have shown us that like most Western institutions are a bit hypocritical when it comes to values, especially when we look at like the Israel and Palestine issue and like how there's selective action taken against people who speak for Gaza. So I don't want to get too much into the values bit. I think it's better to like stick to like the technical points, the areas that your department in particular is working on, and how you can like appeal to that. Otherwise, I guess in terms of this one extra value, I would say that it would be good if you can somehow mention experience that you've had working in teams, whether it's at undergraduate level or in a professional setting, and especially if it's a diverse team of like people from various parts of Pakistan, or even if you've had the opportunity to work online with people from different countries, then it's a good thing to add in your SOP. Shafqat, I don't know if you want to add more. I'm just going through some of the more
Yeah,
questions.
sure. One more thing on the you mentioned the schools have different experience requirements. Primarily, those requirements are also there to help people get funding from their employers to get into business school programs, because a lot of employers do fund their employees who are actually the very good employees to these are part of the HR benefits for most organizations internationally, as well as some organizational locally. So one example is McKinsey. They typically do offer three, once you are part of that company, you do 3 years at the company, and then in your fourth year, you could go any similarly, a lot of local companies, if you are a very good employee in Pakistan, they do fund either at least partially or 50% of your Oxford fees, or any good business school or other school fees, where you can still work part-time for the company and part-time focus on your study. So this is one option you can have. And on the experience side, it's always an advantage if you have an experience which is professionally related to the degree you are pursuing. It does not have it does not benefit when that experience is not very relevant. But it does matter somewhat. Like maybe having experience does help in some ways. Uh, One more thing I wanted to add around Oxford colleges is do study them, because it's extremely different thing from all other universities. Oxford and Cambridge have uh, a very different set of rules, or a very different set of experiences you go through. For in my program, Elena, we did had the choice of accepting any college if we applied early enough that all those colleges had spaces. So we could apply to, once we are selected at Oxford, we could get any of the colleges on the list. There were some colleges which are were picky on taking on students, so one or two, but most colleges were okay. So if you have applied for it and you wanted to like go to Keble, you could get to Keble. Keble is Imran Khan's college, if someone does know. So uh, in my program, we didn't had Christchurch. Christchurch is Bilawal Bhutto family's college. Uh, I think Saint Hilda's is Benazir Bhutto's college, and also Malala's college. So a lot of famous people from Pakistan have their lived experiences there, and the colleges have those stories as part of their history. So Oxford, being the oldest university in the English-speaking world, has a lot of those stories.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, I was just going to say, I saw this question now, how to justify the change of core subject from undergrad and how to tackle career gap. So I don't know if we could split this question. I don't know how to answer the career gap question. I don't think I'm qualified for it, but I can address the first half. Like even the masters that I did, like it is sort of technical, but not fully technical. It was like, if I had to describe it, because it's a water science, policy, and management, like three different elements to it, it's 2/3 social science and 1/3 actual science. And then I come from an engineering background. I think it's as long as you can like show the connection of how you got to the decision of applying to this program, and again, it depends on your authentic storytelling skills essentially, so really do work on that writing. It should be fine. Lots of people, like even in my program, some people came from like English literature backgrounds and like very like wildly different sort of backgrounds. So it's not as hard and fast as things are in Pakistan, because I think we in Pakistan, we grew up with the mindset that, oh, if you have like science subjects, then you can only stick to like a science-based career, but it's not as hard and fast abroad. So it's some, again, I don't know if you want to unmute and maybe talk about like from what subject you're trying to switch, so we can maybe advise you better. But yeah, I think what I did personally was, because like I talked about my engineering experience and like all of the things that I had observed personally in the water sector as a citizen of Karachi, and then sort of linked it with, well, engineering interventions can only have so much of an effect unless they're supported by policy interventions. And that's how I sort of justified why I wanted to study policy as well in my master's. So it's about creating those linkages with your writing. Feel free to unmute and like tell us more about your plans, if you'd like.
Just one thing to add to Elena's answer. Uh, it's very, very common in UK and outside of Pakistan to change your careers. In my cohort, I had people who were retired IB persons, and they were doing program MMPM, and then they were doing startups. So, and then I think a lot of people had 2 to 3 career trajectories of very different fields, very different education backgrounds. And in business school, it's common. It's extremely, extremely common to change your core groups or core subjects. And even in broader university, it's very common.
I see that Mariam's written what she's trying to switch for. So she has a background in English literature and wants to apply for public policy. I don't think there's anything that too difficult in doing that, because a lot of people who study public policy at postgraduate level, they come from very different backgrounds. Again, you've also mentioned a career gap. So I think, like, again, this is, I'm only speaking theoretically because I haven't dealt with it myself, but I think maybe one of the ways to approach it could be talking about, well, even if you weren't working anywhere formally, what things you've done, because we live in the age of the internet. You have access to books, resources, online courses, things like that. So if you've stayed in touch with your field somehow through reading, through research, through even attending webinars and stuff, like if you've done any of that, then those could be ways of telling them how you continue to follow your passion even if you weren't formally employed. So that's one way to approach it. Again, and for public policy, because public policy is such it's such a wide field. I guess it depends on which aspect of it you're interested in. So for example, if you're interested in like health or maybe digital rights, then if you have time, I would encourage you to maybe participate in like a few NGO activities, maybe like volunteer at a couple of places. So even if you do have an English literature background, like does sort of give you an advantage because it shows them that you know like how to analyze written content and how to write well as well, hopefully. So that these are all core skills for policy. So if you can try to extract what skills you have from your English literature degree that are transferable to the sphere of public policy, and then back that up with some involvement in like whatever organization you can find, like even if it's like an online job or something, and anything to put you back into the sphere of whatever aspect of public policy you're interested in, and then use that experience to like build up your CV before you apply. I hope that helps.
Also, on this career gap thing, I did had an experience myself. Uh, Not at side, they didn't ask for this career gap thing, but LAMS did ask for a 5 month career gap I took between two jobs. And I was very open with them, and I told them that I did try to start it. I did try a startup, which actually got failed, and they were okay with it. They were people want to see what did you learn from whatever you did. Actually, all they want to see is what experience you bring from whatever you did in your life, and how you can present it, how you can synthesize it. That's about it, I think.
Yeah. There's also a question about Oxford emphasizing research experience or not. So again, it depends on which program you apply to. So for example, if you're applying to an MSc in theoretical physics, then yes, maybe they do need to see substantial research experience. Some people in my cohort had published a few papers. Most of us had not done any publishing because we were all again fresh grads. Some people did do publish things while they're undergrads as well, so that's great for them. If you have any publications, it's good. It's definitely an advantage, but it's not something that is a core item on any assessor's checklist. That I think is a misconception, especially again depending on which program you're applying to. For example, like things like public policy or any policy oriented program, it's more about application. So I think they value research publications less in those regards. But again, if you're looking at very core STEM programs, maybe they are higher valued in those terms. But again, it's never a necessity for any MSc program. For PhD applications, yes, I think it does matter a lot.
For business schools, doesn't really matter unless you are applying for PhD.
Yeah. And then I think I already did sort of address this about adding personal journey, like emotional stuff in SOP. It's about finding the right balance. Obviously, I did mention this before. It's really important to have your personality shine through your words. That is the only impression that the assessors will be left with. And you also have to understand that they don't spend a lot of time. They get loads and loads of personal statements. So in order to make yours memorable, it's always good to make it as human as possible, but don't let it take over the majority of your writing space and your word count.
Oh, okay, so just one more thing on the loads and loads of applications. You can actually ask from university what the number of applications they did get for each program. And there are a lot of programs where there are some programs, not a lot of programs, where the application to number of class participant ratio is not very high. So if you are interested in one of those programs, then that's something that's a lucky day for you, maybe. So there is one program which is offered by, I think, medical department, Nuffield Medical Department uh, uh, on public health. So it generally gets about 50 applications, and there are 50 or 45 seats. So if you are applying for something of that nature, maybe there is a lot more chance for you to get into those programs. But the data is available on, I think, right to public data access website. I can share that with Barak and Girls Fly team later. I did go through that data when I was applying for my program.
Yeah, I also see that I only answered half of Aisha's question. So she also asked, considering you're a fresh grad, in your opinion, what made your application stand out? Like I said, super curriculars, which are activities relevant to your academic course outside of university, they're really important, and it's very important to be consistent with them. So just if you've only done like a few activities, a few super curriculars right before applying to your master's, it doesn't really show that much consistency. So you do have to like show sustained interest and effort that you've made outside of the classroom to go above and beyond in your subject. I think that is what helped me. I was involved in a few technical societies related to water in my university. I was also I was like try to look up international bodies or student chapters of various organizations in Pakistan. There are loads of them, but they're not talked about enough. So if I speak about water, for example, there's the International Water Association's Young Water Professionals chapter in Pakistan. They do quite a few activities. They're very happily recruiting volunteers as well. So if you do decide to join like an organization like that, organize a couple of conferences with them, network through them, and you can even like end up publishing things with them. So these are things that really do matter, and they're outside your curriculum. They show that you went above and beyond, made the effort to learn more. So yeah, I did take part in societies like that. I was involved in a few international competitions. I tried to like be part of every water related opportunity that I could get in university and also outside of it. Um, and then I think also it really helps speaking to people on LinkedIn. I can't emphasize this enough. If you people in Pakistan, they generally, I don't think we use LinkedIn to its full potential. Like, do use it do use it for what it's made for. um, Try to like, don't be shy when you're sending connection requests to people. If a program at Oxford interests you, then you look up people who done that degree on LinkedIn, connect with them, send them a polite, and do be polite when you're approaching people, because a lot of people approach others on LinkedIn with the sort of attitude which implies an expectation that, oh, you will help us no matter what. And that is like like Shafkat said, it's really important to be polite and professional when you're speaking to people on LinkedIn. But if you and you can use Chat GPT for that, like use AI for what it's good for. So do construct your messages through AI. Reach out to people. Do try to understand what the program is actually about, what the experiences are. You can do video calls with people. Like, I spoke to quite a few people, and that sort of gives you a better idea of what to expect. It sometimes even tells you if you like the program or not, because sometimes it looks very good on the web page, but then you realize it's not for you. And yeah, once you explore profiles of people who've done your program, you can also see their career trajectory. So like what organizations and what kind of roles they were part of. So you can like sort of start imagining things for yourself as well, that, oh, I can end up here if I do this degree and take this route. So all of that sort of does come together, reflect in your personal statement. I think even as a fresh graduate, once you have like that sort of like long-term vision and you mention that in your personal statement, then they do value it, and they sort of realize that, okay, like this person actually knows what they want and they have some sort of plan, and that's something that they value, and what most fresh graduates lack. They're like, it's normal to be confused, but if you're not like doing as much research as you can to sort of like fill in the gap, then it's on you, and it should not, like, the knowledge gap and the confusion should not reflect in your personal statement. So yeah, these are some of the things that did help.
Just to add to Elena's point, and also I'll answer Manfan's question here. Yeah, I did reach out during my application process as well. I did reach out to people who did this program 1 year, 2 years back, or some people who were doing it at the time. It's very easy once you approach them very politely, and I did use ChatGPT. So it's very okay to use ChatGPT. Just do edit some kinks which ChatGPT gives you. And then I was able to also speak with a lot of people. People did book 30 minutes in their calendars to speak to me on Zoom calls or on video calls and give input into our application process. So you can do that, and people are generally very kind in doing it. And on Imran's question, there are a lot of opportunities, and the university allows, or there is a program where people of refugee origin or people who helped refugees are also given uh, a preference in admissions, or they are basically given a preference, a positive reinforcement into their applications. So that's there. And if you apply for it, there would be some sort of uh, help you can expect from university.
Yeah, and I'll add that Oxford is one of the universities in the UK which has a refugee sanctuary status as well. So they do have very decent mechanisms in place when it comes to accommodating students who come from a refugee background. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I see you followed up with another comment. Yeah, Shafqat, I think he's asking.
When you apply to any program, Imran Khan, any program you apply to, there is a questionnaire in the application process where they basically are trying to judge if you would need some additional help, and they ask for your background. So you have to be fair and share your background with them. You can opt not to, but if you are looking for something similar, you should share that.
I think I do have one comment though, because Imran, you mentioned that you work with the UNHCR. My comment about like the sanctuary provisions was for people who actually have who are refugees themselves. So like they have refugee status. So for example, if you are from Afghanistan or Gaza or things like that. But if you are working with the refugee agency, that's definitely something that's valuable if you're applying to a relevant program. But just association through working with a refugee agency is not, I don't think it will bring any additional advantages. Like, Shafqat, I don't know if you want to.
I think there is some. If you actually cared for refugees, there is a provision in the application process. If you actually cared for, it's that provision is people who care for longer period, either for uh, people who couldn't care for themselves and you actually took care of them. There is a provision, but you have to go through it and you have to research on it.
Mhm.
I think I do remember something similar.
Okay. Maybe looking at the website would be more relevant then. I see there's a question from Kashif about how we can start research from scratch as undergraduate students. So yeah, I know that a lot of like Pakistani institutions, especially government institutions, do not encourage independent student research at undergraduate level, which is quite sad, especially for STEM-based programs. I've been part of such an institution myself. I think one of the most doable ways to approach it, if you again, can I ask which program you're in? Because I'm answering from a science-based perspective, but I just want to know in case you have a social science perspective. AI. So yeah, I guess that's pretty STEM. Yeah, I think like one of the most approachable ways to do research is writing a literature review paper, like because you don't need experiments or lab equipments or things like that to do that, but it does require a lot of reading, and it tests your comprehension skills, your analysis skills very well. So if you are actually able to publish a literature review paper in a well-respected journal, then that's something that could really make your application shine. It will take a lot of time. It also depends on like I think one of the problems with like institutions mainly, although you mentioned that you're in North Cyprus, I'm not sure if you're having an easier time with it. But yeah, but with Pakistani institutions, like we don't learn until like the very end of our academic journey how to actually conduct a literature review properly, and how to even search through sources, because you're not supposed to type everything into Google Scholar and then just pick and choose. Like there are softwares that are meant to enable you to conduct literature reviews properly. So if you can read up a bit more on that, equip yourself with the right tools to conduct a literature review, and that is something that you could do on your own without a team, without any additional lab equipment or funding even. It just needs your time. So I think that's one of the most doable things to ways to approach research. And then also there are obviously other ways as well, but again, it depends on the resources you have. If you're in the social sciences and you want to like conduct surveys or interview people or interact with the public, then there are a whole range of ethical issues that pop up with that. So there's a lot. I'm going to have to do another session on this if I keep talking, but yeah, I think that the safest way to start is maybe looking into writing a review paper. Yeah, and then yeah.
Sorry, let me cut you off. So please go ahead. I'll speak.
No. You can. I was going to move on to another question. So yeah, please feel free.
So, Kashif, if you can read a lot of research papers, just start reading research papers and learn to actually read what those research papers do. So, in Pakistan, the research is like, or the understanding of research paper is that we have to prove something, or this has to be different, or that stuff. Internationally, or my Oxford experience is very different. So the research they focus on is, you did study a problem, hypothesized something, gave credit to everyone who actually participated, and also gave credit to people whose work you relied on while finding or understanding your findings, and then reach out to any conclusion. It can be either proving something or disproving something, or saying my findings are inconclusive. Neither did I prove something, neither did I disprove something. I don't have enough data for this. And if you can go through Oxford's AI research, Oxford has a very decent amount of funding in their AI. And last discussion I had with one of AI professors at St. Anne's. St. Anne's is not my college, but I was there for a formal dinner, and I did speak to one of the AI professors leading AI. They they are massively in shortage of people. They're massively in shortage of space to put all the equipment they have, but they have a lot of funding. So do look at AI at Oxford. There are a lot of groups on AI in different colleges and as well as in broader university.
Just gonna go question. It's asking about on fellowships. Example of these online courses, because I do agree some of these, because they're so uh, I guess like it's sort of like they don't really represent actual ability. I would say like some of these courses, like it's very important to pick and choose which online course you're investing your time into, because like yeah, some people do put in like qualifications left, right, and center, but they don't actually mean anything if you've not gained any transferable skills. It is important to, if you're mentioning an online course or a certificate program that you've done, it needs to be like vetted. Otherwise it will hold much value. So if I talk about like environment sector, for example, like ESG training courses, so they need to come from the right service provider. But yeah, if you come from the right service provider and you show that you've actually learned something, again, you slip through the paragraph, you write about it in your statement, then definitely leave impact on the assessor. In terms of low CGPA, I think we've already addressed this. So you can cover for that through either work experience and yeah, other activities that you're doing in your field of study. That sort of shows that, well, despite the low CGPA, like you still have knowledge through actual practical action. If you more about like your specific field, I think we'd probably be able to help more. Um, yeah, so okay, so World Bank courses for economics and so okay, yeah, it's good. They're good for you to enhance your knowledge. I think just dropping their names actually, if you learned like some theory through one of those courses, and then you can talk about it, maybe like application in Pakistan and how you see unraveling and applying to whatever like your field of interest is. If you can write your personal statement, then it really shows you have actually gained knowledge and expertise. So just mentioning MIT or then or on their own, I think they will like. Do you agree?
Uh, Sorry, Lena, I think either my internet is not working properly because I wasn't able to listen to some of your uh,
Oh,
what you said in the end
oh,
of it.
yeah, no, my internet has also been acting really sketchy, so I apologize if I'm cutting out. Do let me know if the call organizers, if you can let me know if there's an issue with my audio, I can try switching my internet.
On what you said, I did understand partially. Uh, what I understood is I'll just repeat it. These programs, the ones you mentioned, are good, but you also have to mention them, or you have to refer to them in your application in a way that you did actually learn some stuff out of it, and how you are applying that stuff in your daily life, or how would that stuff you learned would be a value to program and other people in that cohort. So that's something you have to focus on.
I also see there's a follow-up comment on whether MS programs prioritize coursework over research. Again, depends on which MS program you're applying to, and even within the same MS program, a lot of people in my cohort wanted to continue with research, whereas the rest of us were very much focused on applying what we've learned in the practical sphere. So there is no limitation as such. Again, it really just depends on how well you can justify your interests to the assessors. Yeah. I think, is there anything? Oh, I see there's a question on uh, programs for research like summer. Yeah, Oxford does offer summer programs. They're mostly for high school students though, so you will have to check which ones you qualify for. But it's good to like keep following the websites, the LinkedIn pages of all of the departments that you're interested in, and they do put out things for the summer fairly regularly.
You can look at events at Oxford. Then there will be an Oxford website which pop up, and they have a lot of data on what are the programs happening all around in different colleges. So uh, because Oxford has a lot of departments and a lot of colleges, and they are a parallel universe, so the data is pretty fragmented. So you will have to look at maybe not one, but maybe three, four different websites. Where we could share those website links later with the team, with the organizers, and they can share those with you. Or you could go ahead and look at or search for your own area of expertise or the areas you're interested in. So obviously there are people, there is energy departments, there are uh, public policy. There are policies of a lot of different kinds. So Oxford is primarily a social sciences university with some engineering here and there. Uh, Keep looking at different websites there, so you can find out whatever you want to know. A lot of data is available on the website, and the people are very helpful. There are going to be email addresses mentioned in almost all of those websites, and people do reply all the emails. It's not like Pakistan where you send someone an email and you won't get you won't get a reply, but there you will get a reply. Even if you send an email to a professor will reply to you at some point in sometime they are on vacation, so may not be same day or same week reply, but you will definitely get reply.
All right, I guess there aren't any more questions, so let's wrap this up. A big thank you to Alina and Shafkat for such a meaningful and insightful session, and a great reminder for all of us that big names universities like Oxford isn't impossible as we used to think. If you have any follow-up questions, you can reach out to Alina and Shafkat on their LinkedIn accounts. They have dropped the link in the chat. And stay connected with Girlsfly on our social media platforms for updates on future sessions. Good night and have a very good weekend. Allah Hafiz, everyone. You can leave the meeting now. Thank you
Thank you.
again.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Aisha, for arranging this. Thank you, Lena.